show that asks the questions that matter. Can you stomach your children watching violent videos? Why should people who never go near a theatre pay for those who do? And couples at a new school, the London School of Orgasm? Do they know something we don't?
Well, really good to see you. Good evening. Welcome to Central Weekend and to our audience. They come from Stratford.
Well, we start tonight with the finger that points at videos like this. Did it and other video nasties play a part in the killing of little James Bulger? It was the last video hired by the father of one of Jamie's killers before the murder. Is it just coincidence that it features a childlike character splattered with blue paint before meeting an appalling death by a railway track? Is it time to be much tougher about what we let children watch? Well, let me go first of all to David Alton up here and ask you, David, is there any real hard evidence that there is a connection between this terrible murder and video nasties?
Yes, indeed, and the trial judge himself pointed to the link between videos and the events that led to James Bulger's tragic death. But only today the same judge has been saying not just videos, but this specific video, it will be reported in tomorrow's newspapers, clearly was influential in the events that took place on Merseyside. But we know other things as well. Dr. Bailey, who is the forensic psychiatrist who works for the government, did interviews with 40 child murderers aged between 5 and 18. And in a quarter of the interviews that she did, 25% of those interviewed said that videos had played some part in their predisposition to carry out the acts of violence that they'd perpetrated.
Well, Ian Muspratt is here from the Video Standards Council, and it seems that there are an awful lot of chilling coincidences between this particular video and the actual murder. Do you not now accept that there is definitely a link with incidents like this?
No, I don't. I prefer to rely on the categoric and repeated statements that the police have made that there is no such thing. I'd also like to just point out that video is very, very heavily regulated in this country. Every single video that is released has to be certified, having particular regard, that means censored incidentally, having particular regard that it's going to be seen in the home. That's done by a body appointed by government under statutory law, and if anybody releases anything that isn't properly censored, then they will be guilty of a criminal offence and punished accordingly. And the same thing applies to people who make things available to people under age.
But of course this isn't true, because the situation is so lax that this very video we've just been discussing was actually going to be shown on British television, let alone through videos which would only be available to adults, but was going to be shown on television as recently as just last night. And we also know from, again, tomorrow's newspapers, of a case here in the Midlands. A West Midlands mother has a 6-year-old son who had seen this specific video repeatedly, and she says that her son became possessed and tried to kill their family dog, and that is in tomorrow's newspaper.
Moira Bremner, I mean, you're a teacher, I know you studied psychology, and clearly it is worrying, but not all children who watch videos like this become murderers. I mean, what convinces you that there is a definite link?
By the way, I was a teacher, I'm now a broadcaster, but there's very, very good evidence with adults, and we know that children mop up information far more even than adults do. I mean, a survey that was done with adults studied 400 psychological studies of how adults were affected by violent movies. Only 4 of those 400 studies failed to show that adults were influenced by what they'd seen. Now, if adults are affected, we know children are even more affected. And I mean, it isn't a matter of psychological studies. How does any child learn how to behave? It learns by what it sees and hears, and a child doesn't have a neat division between what it sees on a screen and what it sees in ordinary everyday life. The whole of the Open University, many teaching that is done on television, using television programs, is based on the idea that children learn by watching even a television screen.
Are you saying that violent movies should not be made at all then? You should ban all of them?
I certainly think that we shouldn't have movies which make it seem desirable. Can I say, I'm not saying that any child who watches this sort of material is going to go out and commit a crime like that. Otherwise, the whole of our streets would be littered with murdered toddlers, and thank God that doesn't happen. But when you take children like these two, who are already vulnerable, who are already disturbed, and then you have like a spark, and you go and pour on that spark the petrol of these videos, you have a recipe for disaster, and we have seen the tragedy.
We need to also ask ourselves if we want to go the way that America's gone. In America, by the age of 5, the child is now estimated, according to evidence given to the Home Affairs Select Committee in Parliament, is estimated to have seen a total of 20,000 homicides, 20,000 murders. Now, you can see what that leads to in reality. Fact and fantasy, right and wrong, become confused. We have 47,000 children in this country on child protection registers through fear of physical or sexual abuse. Surely we don't want that kind of culture of violence.
Okay, let me just
here.
bring in Alex Chandon here. You actually make horror films. I know that at least a couple of them have not had a certificate in this country.
We haven't given them for certification.
Right, I mean, do you not feel a huge responsibility?
No, not really, because I'm not making the films for children. I'm making them for adults.
Yeah, but children are watching them, aren't they?
I don't know. I haven't seen any children
But
that are
this is
watching my
ridiculous.
films.
You simply can't say that you're not making them for children.
No,
because you have been a child.
Yes,
you
and I
know
watched
that
horror
what
films
happens,
as a child,
that
and I'm completely all right.
if a video is brought into the home, that children will find it, that children will pick it up.
Well, why?
No
Why?
parent can watch their child every single minute of the day.
Well,
I have 3 children, and I know very well that you just go into another room and they will put something on.
I think that we have to be very careful.
It's utterly unrealistic.
If I could just...
yeah, sure.
I think we have to be very careful to understand that there is a very, very sophisticated and considered system that operates in this country that makes it very clear what is suitable and for whom.
What you're saying
all
just
of us
shows
as
how little it
adults have a
works.
responsibility to ensure that that guidance is followed.
Yeah, isn't the problem that a lot of adults aren't responsible?
That's right.
That's their problem. That's
And
not
it
actual
isn't,
filmmaking.
it isn't simply a question of that. You know, what is very important is if we live in a society in which adults regard watching torture and murder and mutilation as a form of entertainment, we shouldn't be surprised if children then think that it's entertaining and desirable. We can't split children off and say there is one law for children, one for adults. We are all part of one society, that we have material being shown regularly that is as horrific as it is a sign of an absolutely bankrupt society, that we have no consideration for what is going into our minds as human beings.
Okay, well, maybe we should just get rid of them altogether. There was a video store just this week that decided to burn all their videos, and we have Robert Mongan here, who also runs a video store. Do you not think you should just have a bonfire of all your video nasties?
Not really, because I don't think it's that sort of thing we really need to do. I mean, at the end of the day, it has to be an 18-year-old person who actually takes the film out, or 18 or above. Really, it's up to them to govern if their children watch it or not.
Can you tell me why we need that sort of video, why we need horror, how you can justify if even only one child
It's demand, supply and demand.
Horror films.
You know,
there is
people
a
want
demand for
action,
drugs.
violent
Does that
movies.
mean that we should actually be selling heroin on every street?
Well, we're selling
corner?
alcohol.
Look, it's obviously a business. Listen, it's obviously a business to you. You're in it, it's your living. But do you ever pause to give thought to the kind of effect that it's going to be having on the children who undoubtedly do get access to these films, whether they should or not?
Why should the children get access to the films?
But you know that they
over there
do.
was
You know that they do because the parents take them out and the children watch them. Because
How do you know
parents
that?
are responsible.
At the end of the day, there's an 18 certificate on the box. An 18-year-old adult takes the film out, or 18 and above. They take the film out. It's their video.
Can I ask you a question? Just supposing there was hard evidence that a video that had been bought from your store or hired from your store influenced a child to kill another child, if there was hard evidence, would you feel that you were still justified in hiring out those videos? Would the pleasure that your customers say they get be worth a child's life?
That's a very good question.
Very hypothetical.
It's hypothetical, yes.
It is not hypothetical. When 400 trials have shown that people are
There's been no
influenced,
definite
it is
proof.
not hypothetical. We have very good evidence of the link in this case. We have very good psychological evidence in 400
I don't think that is true.
studies.
There is no evidence whatsoever.
Okay, let me just talk now. Let me just talk.
I have read a great deal about it.
Okay, just a moment. Can I just talk now to Susan G here, just for a moment? Now, your son Michael here is very good friends with Bobby Thompson, who is one of the two child murderers.
Yes.
And Jon Venables, yes. Is it right that he could actually have gone with them on that day?
Well, looking at those two pictures on the paper, Michael could have been in the middle with them, yeah.
He actually called for him, didn't he?
He called for him the day of the murder, yeah. And because Michael was sick, he was off school, so he didn't go with them that day.
The thing that bewilders us all is, what is it about these two children that they could do such a thing? You knew both of them. What were they like?
Bobby used to come to the house and I'd offer him sweets, biscuits, and he was just like a little angel. You know, you couldn't see no wrong in him. He was just naughty like any other child was. But you know, I used to look at him plenty of times, but I never once said he was going to murder a child, because he just didn't look as if he would.
He didn't seem evil to you in any way?
No, not at all.
But is it right that
because
they actually...
if he did, I wouldn't have allowed Michael to play with them.
Is it right that they played truant together then, you didn't know about it?
They were playing truant for 4 months before I found out by the school mistress.
But, I mean, you're his mother. Wasn't it really your business to find out that they were playing truant?
Well, by rights, I thought they should have told me, but I knew nothing until I rang up one day and asked the teacher, could Michael stay off school because he was going to the dentist.
A lot of people are going to say, look, you're his mum, you should have known, you know, and a lot of people are pointing the finger at parents and saying, well, you know, the parents of these kids are to blame. What do you say to that?
Well, Michael used to leave school at 8:30 and he used to come home at 3:30, 20 to 4. Well, that's the time the school finishes, so as far as I was concerned, he went to school.
Bobby, Michael, sorry, were you surprised at all when you heard what happened?
Yeah, I was, but now that it's done, I could never stay off again.
Wow. What was he like?
He used to always threaten me that if I don't watch them, he'd batter me.
So he used to beat you up then? Did he make you do things that you didn't want to do?
Yeah.
Like what?
He used to always grab in a quick save.
And you actually recognised his picture, didn't you?
Yes.
When they put it up?
Yeah.
Okay, well let me talk to another mum with children down here. And but is it right that you actually encourage, at least allow, your two children here to watch these videos?
Yes, the youngest one has been watching them since he was 2 years old. But there is a big difference.
Thoroughly irresponsible.
He knows that it's not real.
Because I think if
He
parents
knows
watch the
it's
film
not
with their
real.
How do you know he knows it's not real?
talk through,
Well, ask him.
and the children will know.
What do you think when you watch these films? How old are you, by the way?
5.
5, yeah.
Because they've only got makeup on.
Yeah. And you've seen Child's Play, haven't you? All of them. Were you not frightened by it?
No.
Did it not give you nightmares?
No.
And did you not think you wanted to go out and do any of those horrible things?
No.
Michael, how about you?
Yeah, I've seen them all.
I mean, do you not frightened by them?
No.
And did you not find it scary having all those horrible images in your head?
No. It's not real.
I mean, you say you're sort of responsible with them, but really, most people would be outraged that you're showing them to them at all.
Probably, but I mean, at the end of the day, they are going to watch them one day. Now, I would rather they watch them with me so that I can say to them, that's how they do so-and-so. I mean, he's seen Terminator, he's seen the making of Terminator, and he's not the only child in his class that's seen it.
Absolutely irresponsible. Utterly irresponsible.
No, because at the end of the... Irresponsible is allowing your children when they're 12, 13 to go round to a friend's house or roam the streets, get a video out that an older boy's got and sit and watch it, and they hype each other up to such an extent.
I don't think that either, but that doesn't alter the fact that your actions are irresponsible.
This illustrates the scope and scale of the problem. We heard earlier on that we don't need any additional regulations because we can trust parents. What we've clearly heard now is that we can't trust parents. And I'm afraid yes, I am. I'm saying quite clearly. But yes, I have 3 young children, and I would not. They're all under the age of 5, and I wouldn't want any of my children seeing a programme like Child's Play 3. I'd heard about it, but I hadn't seen it. Until this evening, I hadn't. And I had been shown it here.
It's crap.
Just before coming into this studio. And if anybody in this audience would want their child to see a doll brought to life, which then sets about the killing of other children, and then to see that child being mutilated, being destroyed, left by a railway line, splattered with blue paint, just the sorts of things that happened in the tragedy on Merseyside, where I come from. And let me also say to you,
do you let your children watch the 6 o'clock news?
Yeah,
no, I don't.
Do you?
No, I don't. For the very reason, no, because as a responsible parent, I don't believe that I should be exposing them to those kind of images of violence at this stage in their lives. There will come a moment for that. But let me tell you this, not just as a parent, but someone who worked with children who were maladjusted and children who had psychological problems for several years before I went to Parliament. One of the reasons why children commit these kinds of acts that we have seen is not when they are perfectly healthy children who are able to cope with some of these images, but if they are predisposed to violence. If they are a child who is in any way psychologically disturbed in the first place, to then fill their minds with these kinds of images is downright irresponsible, and any parent who does it, I think, frankly, I think those parents are letting down their children. They are letting down their children.
Can I pick you up on your point? Because I can understand what you're trying to do. You're trying to, in a sense, inoculate your children. And if those children were in their teens, I would say you would be doing a wise thing to let them.
By that time it's too late.
Can you let me finish speaking, please? But to show those sort of things to children of that age, when they are so impressionable, is to put images into their minds that no child should have in its mind.
No, okay, can I just go? Hang on a minute. Can we just go to the chap at the back? He's got his hand up there. Yeah.
Surely a child should have a proper childhood, and surely that lady down there is just self-indulging in herself, not worrying about what her children should have a childhood.
Can I just make the point, Ian Muspratt, we heard earlier on your contention that you're highly regulated in this country, you don't need any more regulation. Now we hear from a mother who, quite clearly allows her children. So what can you do about that?
That is a person who I've made it abundantly clear is taking no notice of the rules whatsoever and acting utterly irresponsibly.
That's why
if you pursue Mrs. Bremner's argument to its logical conclusion, you will have no Shakespeare in this country.
Can I say absolutely not? I have proposed in Parliament.
Would you allow me to finish?
Okay.
And then please do make your point.
Certainly, and forgive me.
We have to understand that entertainment is a range of activities. Some of it is not suitable for people of particular dispositions, including particular ages. Provided that information is made very clear, and in the case of video it's backed up by the full majesty of the law, then what we all have to do and what we all have to discharge is a duty to the adults to make sure that children and other members of the community are properly safeguarded. That is a function of responsibility which attaches to all of us as adults.
Okay, Maura, quickly. Maura, just quickly.
You said we would not have Shakespeare. What I have proposed is that the law should be changed so that it will be made illegal to promote violence and human degradation. Now, that would not ban Shakespeare, because Shakespeare depicted it, but never promoted it. And can I say that I am launching a campaign to try to get this sort of law brought in, and I hope there will be backing from your viewers.
How can this lady say what effect seeing these video nasties now will have on her children in the future? I personally think there's a lot of natural horror in the world without fantasising.
Okay. Well, that really raises the issue of whether you believe that there are some children that are just born innately evil. Lynette Burrows, I mean, do you think that?
No, I don't. Obviously not. I think children are born morally neutral. and they learn to be bad the same as they learn to be good, and it's up to parents, obviously. And obviously one cannot depend upon parents. I must say I hate to hear the media talk about these unbelievably evil children when particularly television has played such a large part in brutalising them. And now they're saying they're so incredibly evil because what they want to say is because we couldn't have corrupted anybody that was just a little bit ordinarily naughty, so they're blowing it up. I think these children were naughty children. The fact is that there is no discipline on children. It's a disgrace that the schools didn't even tell the parents that their children were on, you know, playing truant. But it just throws up the whole thing that all the time we're told by social workers and the like, what parents need is more advice from us. Now, this poor parents in this case went to the social workers, went to the police and said, help us control our children, and they can't do it because they just do not know how to control naughty children nowadays. There's no punishment, there's no discipline. And then at the end of the day, they're called evil.
They've got a constant example
We're
before
constantly
them.
being told, though, this evening that television has no lasting influence and these videos have no influence on children. And I agree with your point that children are undoubtedly influenced by these things. You know, advertisers wouldn't have spent £1.7 billion last year advertising their wares on television if they didn't think that television had some influence on those who are watching it.
And killing kids.
Well,
but this isn't the only case.
But the influence, nevertheless, of the kind of things that are being projected is bound to have the same effect on those who watch it. And if someone has a predisposition anyway, if they are unbalanced in any way, then to have this kind of material...
hang on a minute, let me just turn to child psychotherapist David Pithers now, because if anybody should know, you should know. I know you've worked with a lot of child killers yourself. Please give us some insight, if you can, into what turns what look like ordinary children into murderers.
Well, I think that most children who kill fall into two main categories. There are those who are subjected to intense deprivation right at the beginning of their lives. They make no effective bonding with their parents or with other carers, and they become enraged. And they then, as they grow up, they start to manipulate for power, and they're extremely insensitive to the needs and responses of other people. The other group are those who have simply not internalized controls against quite natural impulses, which I do believe are there, as it were, at birth. And they form really two distinct categories, I think.
Right. David Walton, I mean, what do you say to the argument that thousands of children watch these videos and they don't end up murdering toddlers?
Well, obviously, not every child who watches this sort of video is going to go out and murder someone. But nevertheless, we have to ask ourselves whether we want our children to be, if we want our children to be saturated by a diet of violence. There is quite enough violence in the world without adding to it constantly. That's the first point. The second point I would make is that although there may not be in many children this innate predisposition, there are in some children these problems. And increasingly in communities which are devoid of parental responsibility, where there's an absence of fathers in many parts of this country, not properly bringing up their own children, walking away irresponsibly from the responsibility of child rearing, then in those circumstances, of course, a child can be particularly badly influenced by this sort of material pouring into their homes.
OK, Bob Forrest, I know you've worked with child murderers in secure units. Is there any chance that these children will ever be cured and will be able to return to society as well-balanced human beings?
Yes, I think there is every chance. I would agree totally with the lady at the end there. I think to talk about evil, which is a theological term, and to try and apply it to two 10-year-olds is absolute nonsense. Now, clearly these youngsters have had upbringings which is very different from my children, most other people's children. They have not developed the degrees of controls. They've been subject to influences which perhaps have not been very helpful. I think given the horror of the Bulger murder, people have been looking for a simplistic solution, and folk have latched on to video nasties as perhaps... Now, if it were as simple as that, then we could sort out, we could stop children murdering other children. However horrific the Bulger case is, sadly it's not unique. It does happen. Thank God it happens very, very rarely. And yes, there is hope for youngsters, providing they are they have a chance to relearn what they should have been taught through the first 10 years of their life. So I think there is hope.
John Chesney, you're a psychologist. Are these kids freaks of nature, do you think?
No, they're not. It's a very complicated question to work out how much was involved. But what we're basically saying tonight is that there is some overlay of these videos having an impact for some people. And we can argue about how much it is. And at the end of the day, what is the acceptable risk? Because it's getting more and more graphic. When you rent a video nasty, you have so much horror, then you need some more horror and some more horror to get more and more graphic. In 5 years' time, we'll come back here and say there's a very, very clear, demonstrable link for many, many more people. Let's not wait till then.
OK, let's leave the last word with David Alton. What advice would you give to parents who are going to the video store this weekend and maybe contemplating getting one of these movies out?
Get out and show it to their kids.
I would urge people not to take out these kind of videos at all, because if they're in their homes, then we all know enough about human nature to know if you tell a child not to do something, that child is likely to try and do the reverse. And if the video is in the home, then the child will try to get hold of the video and see it. So even where a parent says, I'm being responsible, if they have in their possession 400 videos, 67 of which, as we knew in one of the cases that we've been talking about here tonight, involved pornography, involved hard violence, involved things like necrophilia, would you want your child to see those sorts of things? Yes, some people are laughing because some people say they would. Is not the sort of thing which I think our children should be subjected to. Surely in this day and age we should see our most precious asset as our next generation, and the influences which we open them to will shape the nature of this country in the future. They deserve better than what they've got.
Okay.
And let's realise
thank you all very much. I'm afraid we have to leave it there. Thank you very much for taking part.
Thank you. Steve Jones has phoned us from Walsall. He wants to know if he stabbed his wife in the shower, would they ban Psycho? I don't suppose they would, Steve, but don't try it. Geraldine from Birmingham. My 4-year-old doesn't watch video nasties, but he watches cartoons like Batman, and they make him violent. Pat from Northfield. You can't blame the video, it's the parents. Stephen Smith, who owns a video shop in Shropshire, says that in the last couple of days more people have wanted to watch Child's Play 3 because of all of the publicity. He has taken it off the shelf in his shop. Tracy from Rubery, you can't blame everything on the video nasties. The children were old enough to know what was make-believe. And confirmation of what David Alton was saying about that national newspaper tomorrow. It is about a West Midlands mum who claims her 6-year-old boy was turned into a demon after becoming obsessed by the video Child's Play 3. The paper claims the boy watched the film repeatedly and tried to hang the family dog. The mother is quoted as saying, in the end, I destroyed the video before it destroyed him. Well, still to come. The couple paying up to £200 to attend a school of orgasm. Leading feminist Cher Height is among those who reckon it's sheer nonsense. And after the break, they say the opera isn't over till the fat lady sings, and government cuts in the arts could mean she doesn't even get on the stage. So ahead of next week's budget, Puccini comes to you live on Central Weekend. Please welcome the conspicuously slim Gail Pearson.